Sarah.
And I'm Becky.
And we are doing a Bickering book review of Kody Keplinger's Run. So this book is about Bo and Agnes. Bo has a meth addict mother, and she's considered the town slut. Actually, her whole family is kind of considered bad news.
You don't want to be part of them.
Yeah, no. Get away from them. Don't be friends with them. Don't talk to them because they're bad news. And Agnes is blind, and so her parents are really overbearing with her, so she really can't do anything like her older sister because they won't let her. But when Bo and Agnes kind of come together and become friends, they actually become better versions of themselves. You know, Agnes pushes the issue and she does more, and Bo is able to kind of repair her reputation. Not that she's actually a slut or anything like that, she's a virgin. But kind of she changes people's view of her.
So. She changes her own view of herself.
Yeah, and she expects, not that she expects more of herself, she has better self-esteem because of it. So.
Yes.
All right, where do we want to start?
I picked this book because I'm a big fan of Kody Keplinger, and not just because, so I read The Duff when I was in grad school, I want to say, because I was trying to read books that were written for teens by teens, and The Duff, I believe, came out when she was like 19, and I thought that was really cool. Loved The Duff. I have issues with the movie because I feel like they just totally disregarded the book, but I love the relationships in that. And then I read Midsummer Nightmares, I want to say is what it's called. Really liked the characters in that, really liked the relationships in that, liked Shut Out, liked Lying Out Loud, and I just couldn't get into this. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the dual narrations between the two girls. I don't know. I will admit, I kind of had a hard time reading Bo's narration.
And I can't make a good determination on how I feel about this author because I really did only read The Duff, and The Duff was really good. I can kind of agree with as far as Bo's narration wasn't as great, but it kind of makes sense because the author suffers from the same eye challenges as Agnes does. So like it makes sense that Agnes's narration would feel more real and feel, you know, better.
I guess my issue is I feel like it didn't need both narrations. Like if it had just been Agnes's narration, I'd been fine with it. And there was a little bit of a romance in it, and I liked the romance. And that's the thing. I feel like Kody Keplinger is really good at creating romances that start in a place that they necessarily shouldn't, but then grow into something really great. And like even like in The Duff, where Wesley and Bianca just didn't like each other, or in Midsummer Nightmare, where I can't remember her name. I think his name was Nate, where the two characters find out that they're going to be step-siblings. But it's like they start in this like awkward, not right place, but they grow into something that's actually very healthy. And I just felt like that that's kind of similar, that Agnes and Bo started in a place that wasn't necessarily the best place, but I didn't feel like their relationship grew to a place that was healthy. I thought Agnes and Colt was like the start of that, and like a whole book about them would have been great, but I just felt like Agnes and Bo never got completely good, if that makes sense.
So do you think that maybe it's because it wasn't a romantic relationship but a friendship instead?
Which is possible. And in the author's notes, because I had an arc, she said that that's what she wanted. She wanted to write a friendship. And I just felt like, the whole story, because the whole idea is that they go on the run because Bo is worried about something and she has to get out of town, and Agnes runs with her. And there was something about the on the run part, it just didn't work. And I love road trip stories, but the road trip story didn't work for me. And I don't know what it was.
I think the road trip story didn't work because it was really clunky because you didn't know why we were running, where we were running from, and it wasn't really, I don't know, it didn't feel like a road trip book. It felt like, well, here's a stop here, and we gotta switch cars here, and it didn't feel like a road trip book.
There were all these elements that should be good, but when you get them together, it just didn't work for me.
And the friendship did work for me, I think, because
the friendship isolated, the interaction between the two. If it had just been them in this town being friends, and Agnes learning to grow into her confidence, and Bo realizing that she's not just one of those Dickinsons, that she can actually be worth something in this community, I would have been okay with that. But it was something about putting it on the road and them running and then It just didn't. It was too many elements put together.
See, I don't know, because I think in order for Agnes to kind of break out of the rut that she was currently in, something drastic like a runaway scene had to happen. I just think that the motivations behind it are what really made it clunky. The motivations and the destination.
See, and I feel like Agnes was coming out of it. Agnes was standing up to her parents and saying, I want the same rights you gave my sister before she got on the road.
Right, but the time the runaway scene happened, it was at a breaking point. Like, so she had to do something drastic to kind of really push, because she was pushing back on her parents and they shut down.
Because I will say, because actually so Agnes, it's told in both narrations, the Bo part is them on the run, the Agnes part is building up to it, and I liked the Agnes narration. I even liked the Agnes narrations with Bo, but maybe it's not necessarily Bo's narration, but what Bo was narrating that I didn't necessarily, I was like...
I think it was the destination and the motivation and just the road trip that kind of threw everything
It just
off.
didn't work, and I'm literally like trying to get through the book faster to get back to the Agnes parts. And I feel like I connected with Agnes, but I feel like at no point did I connect with Bo. And I can't necessarily relate to either of them, but I felt like on some levels there was a connection between the reader and Agnes better, at least this reader, than there would have been between myself and Bo.
Well, I think that's the rough thing, though, with having dual narrations and one taking place in the middle of the conflict,
right,
whereas the other one's starting from the beginning and getting you in there. And I think that's the rough part.
Yeah, I don't think she usually does dual narrations. I was trying to think about that, but I didn't have a chance to go back and look, because I actually have a copy of the Duff, and I'm pretty sure the Duff isn't, and I'm pretty sure that the other ones I read by her are not. And maybe that's part of it too, was that you didn't have the two narrations, didn't need the two narrations. But I feel like the way she was trying to frame it was interesting, like the moving forward and backwards at the same time, but it just, like I said, all the pieces, for this kind of story to work, all the pieces need to click together perfectly like a puzzle, and I just felt like my puzzle was missing something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like it. I really wanted to like it. When one of her books comes out, I get on the wait list 3 months in advance, because I feel like she does have this voice she started as a teen, and she's managed to keep this truly realistic teen voice that kids like and kids can relate to. And I think it's interesting that even though the movie was very dissimilar to the book, kids are still coming in and getting the book and reading the book and liking the book at the Duff, which if you like the movie, they're so different that it's not necessarily like, I liked the movie, I want to read the book. So I feel like she is somebody that kids want to read.
I mean, and she didn't lose the teen voice in this book.
And it just didn't work for me. There was something about it.
And the other thing is, it wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it, and I blew through it. Like, I got through it within 2 hours.
It took me 3 days to read it. Like, I had to make myself sit there and read it.
No, I blew through it. Like, it was super easy and super quick.
And I'd had the arc for a long time, and I hadn't read it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. The two narrations didn't fit together very well, but I mean, it's a standard Kody Keplinger book that I don't know if it definitely wouldn't be I'd recommend the Duff probably first.
I recommend all the stuff.
If you like her stuff, you'll like this, I think. Well, if you like her stuff, you'll have to read this.
You're not me. Because I liked everything else. So,
I mean, it's like Abundance of Catherines for John Green.
I loved Abundance of Catherines. I thought it was hilarious.
But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Anyway.
So, all right, are you ready to rate?
Abundance of Catherines. I'm sure.
Okay, I'm gonna rate it 1 fairy.
I gave it 2 goblins. I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, I know.
So
Standard fluffy.
it was my disappointment.
Aww.
Okay, well, thank you.
Bye.